Hello, my name is Natalie Granda, and for my ecological video project, I'm going to talk about the distribution and abundance of weed species in my backyard. So when looking at my backyard for this project, I noticed there were different types of plants. The most abundant one was the tree-nerve sandwort, but there were also the American trail plant, the common soot thistle, and the lemon clover. Uh, like I said, the most abundant one was the tree nerve sandwort. It was basically covering most of my yard, while the other plants were kind of like located in certain patches along the garden, but their abundance wasn't the same at the same level as the sandwort. So I asked myself why this happened, and these questions came up. Could it be that the dominance of the tree-based sandwort in my yard was due to this plant having some kind of competitive advantage over the other weed species? And if so, what would happen to the distribution and diversity and abundance of plant species in my garden if I were to apply increasing levels of disturbance to the garden? So basically, I wanted to test the intermediate disturbance hypothesis on these plants, which basically states that if you apply an intermediate level of disturbance, um, early and late successional species will be able to coexist on the same environment. Of course, because these are weeds, they're all probably early successional species, but there's clearly some kind of competitive advantage that sandwort has over the others. So I wanted to see if some intermediate level disturbance could help the other plants gain some space in the garden. So that's what I did. I sectioned three little plots in my garden, three 40 by 40 centimeter plots with sticks. I used some shears to cut the plants within these plots. I applied light, medium, and high disturbance levels of cutting in the plots, and then I lightly watered the plots. I did this experiment for 5 days, and I watered the plots, passing a day, so 3 days during the whole experiment. And yeah, I observed what were the results, and the results were there were no results. There was no difference between the initial and final uh, distribution of the plants in the plots. Uh, the species diversity and abundance didn't change with the treatment. Um, and when thinking about why this could have happened, I figured that the experiment was probably too short. 5 days is probably not long enough to see any difference. Probably observing the plots for longer, for a few weeks, might have shown different patterns of growth with increasing treatment. Also, the plots were right next to each other. And for ecological experiments, you're supposed to randomize the locations of whatever you're trying to investigate so that it's more representative of the area you're investigating. And then there were also not any replicates. And there could have been some random chance events or errors that from my part, that could have caused uh, no plants to really grow or no changes to really happen. So replicas would have been are a big part of what went wrong with this experiment. So for the future research, I was thinking what other kinds of things could have affected the distribution and abundance of the different plants in my yard. And I thought about microclimates. There are areas in my yard that are shaded by a porch ceiling. There's also a tree in the middle that kind of creates some shades. And there's also some areas that are more exposed to the sun than others. So different plants may have different preferences of growth, and this might affect their distribution. It could be that the sandwort can grow in like a wider range of environments than the other plants. So it's definitely something to consider in the future to investigate how microclimates affect the growth of the plants. I could also improve my methods. I could randomize the locations of the plots for future research. I could increase the number of replicates to reduce errors. And yeah, that's basically the conclusion, is that for this experiment, the effects of intermediate disturbance treatment They were inconclusive, most likely because of poor design. And I need to improve the experimental period. I need to make it longer. I need to randomize the plots. And also I need to increase replicates. And microclimates within the yard could have an effect on the distribution and abundance of weed species. So this would be an interesting idea to explore in the future. And that is my experiment. Thank you very much for watching and listening.